Being too available to people invites a lot of disrespect. The man who was always there. Marcus was the kind of man people called at midnight. Not because of an emergency. Not because the world was ending. But because they knew he would answer. He always answered. He was the friend who dropped everything when someone needed a favor. The colleague who stayed late to fix other people's mistakes. The son who canceled his own plans, his own dreams, to attend to everyone else's needs. He wore his availability like a badge of honor, mistaking it for loyalty, for love, for strength. What he didn't realize was that he was training the world to take him for granted. The breaking point. It was a Tuesday evening when Marcus hit a wall he could no longer ignore. He had just driven 40 minutes across town to help his friend Daniel move furniture. Furniture Daniel had promised to handle himself, only to arrive and find Daniel laughing on the phone, barely acknowledging Marcus had even walked through the door. No, thank you. No acknowledgement. Just a casual point toward the boxes in the corner and an expectation that Marcus would get to work. Marcus lifted box after box in silence. But something inside him was lifting too. A quiet, uncomfortable awareness that had been building for years. When last did someone show up for me like this? He searched his memory. He came up empty. That night, driving home with an aching back and an emptier spirit, Marcus pulled over to the side of the road and sat in the dark for a long time. The city hummed around him. And for the first time in years, he asked himself a question that would change everything. Why do I keep making myself so easy to use? The uncomfortable truth. The answer wasn't comfortable. But it was necessary. Marcus had believed, deep down, that being needed made him valuable. That if he was always available, always helpful, always present, people would love him more, respect him more, choose him more. But the opposite had happened. The more he gave, the less people appreciated what he gave. The more he accommodated, the more they expected. The more he shrunk himself to fit into other people's timelines and priorities, the more invisible he became, even to himself. He had confused availability with worth. And that confusion had cost him years. The decision that changed everything. Marcus didn't make a dramatic announcement. He didn't send a mass text or write a long post online. He simply made a quiet, firm decision sitting alone in his car that Tuesday night. I will no longer be more committed to other people's lives than I am to my own. It started small. He stopped answering every call on the first ring. He started saying, "Let me check my schedule," instead of "yes," before the other person even finished their sentence. He began protecting his mornings, his energy, his weekends, not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect. And the reactions were immediate. Some friends grew frustrated. They called him different. They said he had changed. And Marcus had to learn one of the hardest lessons life teaches. When people are angry that you have boundaries, it usually means your boundaries are working. A few relationships faded. And while that stung, Marcus noticed something remarkable. The relationships that remained grew deeper. More honest. More mutual. People who genuinely valued him rose to the surface once the noise of obligation cleared away. The transformation. 6 months later, Marcus was unrecognizable. Not in appearance, but in presence. He had launched the online business he had been putting off for 3 years. He had started working out consistently because he finally had time and energy for himself. He slept better. He thought clearer. He laughed more freely. Most importantly, he had developed something he never quite had before. Self-respect that didn't depend on other people's approval. He still helped people. Generously. Warmly. But now he helped from a place of genuine choice, not fear of rejection. There is a profound difference between giving from abundance and giving from desperation, and Marcus now lived on the right side of that line. The lesson for every reader. Here is what Marcus's story teaches us, and what many of us need to hear. Your time is currency. When you spend it freely and without discretion, people stop seeing it as valuable. Not because they are all bad people, but because humans naturally assign worth based on scarcity. When you are always available, your presence carries no weight. When you guard your energy, people learn to treat it with care. Setting boundaries is not cruelty. It is communication. You are telling the world, I have standards. I have a life. I matter too. And the right people, the ones worth keeping, will respect that. They will rise to meet you. The ones who don't, they were never really there for you to begin with. They were there for what you offered. You do not have to be rude. You do not have to be cold. You simply have to be intentional. Answer when you choose to. Show up when it aligns with your values. Help because it brings you joy, not because you are terrified of what someone will think if you don't. Your availability should be a privilege, not a guarantee. A final word. The world will take exactly as much as you allow it to take. Not because people are inherently selfish, but because we all move at the pace of least resistance. When you become the path of least resistance for everyone around you, they will walk all over you without even meaning to. Reclaim your time. Reclaim your energy. Reclaim the version of yourself that existed before you decided that being needed was the same as being valued. It never was. Respect is not given to those who are always available. It is given to those who know their own worth.